A little while ago I watched Markiplier's new film, Iron Lung, which is a game adaptation by David
Szymański.
I don't know. Anyway, Polish, it doesn't matter. I've been a long-time fan of Markiplier's productions, from his early stuff such as The Fall of Slender Man, which features an early version of Wilford Mother-Loving Wolfstache. I'm sure you know who he is, but if you don't, put a picture. Picture that. It's fine. You know who he is. To his huge undertaking of In Space with Markiplier, which is a choose-your-own-adventure series on YouTube, which has got to be just one of my favourite things made in recent times. The story is incredibly intriguing and very detailed, with an insanely high production value and lore that builds upon his previous productions and the characters within. If you haven't seen it before, I recommend you check it out. I will have a link somewhere, I'll do that. We will get into the review part of the review, but before we do that, I want to get into some key lore of the game and how that skewed my expectations and initial opinion of the film. There was an event called the Quiet Rapture, in which all habitable planets and stars in the universe disappear without a trace. The only survivors of which... There's someone out there, and I'm embarrassed. I don't want to be seen like this. A bit sweet. The only survivors of which live on space stations with quickly depleting resources, slowly dying out, and slowly getting colder, as the lights of a dying universe go out. Why? What caused this? We don't know, but goddamn, pretty interesting. Secondly, the moon AT5 has mysteriously developed a blood ocean, which after analysis has been shown to be human blood. Again, where did it come from? We do not know. Our hero is a space convict who has been welded into a rickety submarine called the SM-13 and told to explore the blood ocean in an attempt to earn his freedom and find something that may aid the remnants of humanity. What did he do? Again, we don't know. But that's 3 questions. Pretty interesting. I want to know. I like lore. During the exploration of this ocean, he comes across different oddities and anomalies, such as another submarine called the SM-8, clearly ravaged by something that is in the ocean with us. The other, likely most interesting anomaly is a strange bright light on the ocean floor, and this is explored a lot more within the film. And yes, you guessed right, in the game, we don't know the answer to any of these questions. We don't know what happened to the SM-8, or what the light truly is. The game was released in 2022 for Windows, and production of the film started about 3 years ago, which is a long time to stew in these unanswered questions and wonder what the explanations could be. Personally, I'm very heavily interested in lore, with how things interconnect and explanations to interesting questions, which is why I'm very interested in the Markiplier universe. With each new bit of media, not only do you see the growth in the story and the characters, but also in his storytelling and how his filmography has improved. My Mac is dying. I talked to people previously about how I didn't want the film to be a one-to-one rehash of the game, and when I walked into the theatre I was quite giddy with expectation to see what more the lore of Iron Lung had to offer. Unfortunately, I left the theatre disappointed, and I know that's terrible. I felt terrible at the time because I really like Markiplier and all of his stuff. After I've watched it, I'm like, amazing! It's so good! I want more. But it was exactly what I didn't want it to be. It was an incredibly faithful adaptation and the exact opposite of what I had wanted from the film. There is an epic scene at the end where the slow burn of the film is paying off and the submarine is filling up with blood. Tension is rising, and then it cuts to a view outside of the submarine where the main antagonist, which is this guy, Innie cute. A terrifying telepathic fish, who I won't explain too much more about, but look at this design. It's really cool. It's awesome. And there's so much fan art. Anyway, and it cuts to a view of the outside where this main antagonist is tearing through the sub. And I'm sitting there, filled with intrigue, knowing something epic is about to follow and give this grand scene time to breathe. But then I see the title card, and I know that that was the end. All of that done so beautifully. And that was it? What about the unanswered questions? What about the law, Markiplier? The law! You forgot about the law! How could you do this to me? After some time, and letting my thoughts settle and fully digest, I came to a much different conclusion than I had when I left the theatre. Iron Lung is the best adaptation I have ever seen, and to further that, I'd say it's better than the game it's adaptatoring. Whilst watching the film, my expectations didn't change for what it actually was, and so naturally I would have been disappointed. It's like watching a 1940s documentary, expecting it to be a comedy, and then asking where all the jokes were. This film is an adaptation. It tells the same story through a different medium in a new and interesting way, and it isn't fair of me to think of it as anything but. If you compare it to other adaptations like The Last Airbender, known for being one of the worst adaptations to film ever made, maybe? I certainly think so. I watched it as a kid, and I didn't know of the cartoon series at that point. And so I was really weirded out why everyone loved The Last Airbender. Oh, it's so good. Have you seen it? It's amazing. I have seen it. It's shit, I thought, seeing the live adaptation. A few years later, I saw the actual show, and I nearly cried when it finished. It was really good. Anyway, if you do compare it to other things like The Last Airbender, Iron Lung takes the blood-clotted cake. With my impressions out of the way, let's talk about the good parts of the film, such as this. I know you like this. We all like that. Anyway, the film is just over 2 hours long, and throughout that, you're stuck with Simon in this submarine, with him being the only person we see, really. You can imagine how your attention would slip during that time, and it would very quickly get boring. However, the film uses such a wide variety of intriguing and incredibly creative camera angles that keep you interested for the entire duration, which is even more impressive because of how incredibly limited the spaces. It all takes place within this submarine. Apart from at the very end, we aren't outside of that submarine. We don't see anything apart from what Simon, our protagonist, sees. There's one shot in particular that I love, and it's just very simple. It's of Simon's hand turning. And if you've seen it, you will likely know which one I'm talking about. I'll try and find a clip, but if I can't, watch the film. Secondly, the production value of this is through the roof. They mounted the SM-13 set on hydraulic stilts, which apparently weighed over 9,000 pounds, which is this in kilograms. I saw a TikTok of Markiplier saying that. That's my source. But these hydraulic stilts allow for nearly full articulation of what the submarine is doing within the film, and it adds another layer of reality for when Simon is being shaken around, which lets you fully believe in what's happening within the submarine, and it just really inflated my opinion of the film. Markiplier and his team take such passion with these projects, and loads of energy and effort and care goes into them, and it feels a lot more genuine than the media you typically see nowadays. And it isn't just the submarine that you feel the care that this project held. It's the costume design, the Blood Ocean special effects, the sound design, the design of the monsters, the texture of everything that lets you feel what you're seeing on screen. It doesn't have the overly smooth, oversaturated feel that a lot of Hollywood productions have. Everything feels like a conscious decision, and every choice that was made feels like the right one. The writing of this film is very Markiplier-esque, especially with some of the humour, aka tell it to my tumours. In my opinion, Markiplier's writing doesn't get stale in this new, longer form of content because of how the film silently builds tension. The submarine gets warmer as the film goes on. That feeling becomes slightly claustrophobic as we see the sub start to drip with condensation. This impacts Simon, and we feel his stress within this incredibly stuffy situation. It's one of the better examples of how Markiplier has the capacity to write these incredibly compelling tales, and I just hope that we can see more of what he has to offer in the future. I've been talking a lot of praises for this film so far, and it's only fair if I return it with some of the less outstanding parts of the film. I've spoken about how they kept things interesting throughout the duration of the film, but there were moments where it did sort of start to drag a little bit. A few points that didn't really add much to the film other than time. I've talked to a few friends about it, and they've told me that they thought it would be better as a 1.5-hour film. However, I do think that would affect a large amount of the slow burn quality. So I don't agree to that extent, but I feel like it could probably have had 10 minutes taken out of it, and it would still be incredibly compelling. The second complaint is reiterating expectations I had for the film. There wasn't much expansion of the lore in Iron Lung, and if we look back at the main questions, we only got a couple answers to those, which are: what crimes did Simon commit? What happened to the SM-8 and why is it so ravaged? Very little of the story went to explaining the Quiet Rapture, and I believe that will never be answered. I think it will fall to theorizers and fanatics, which, if they come up with something good enough, it might be incorporated into the true story. With that said, I have very little more to complain about, and I doubt if I said anything it would be new or even interesting. People have watched the film, people have given out their reviews, and I'm sure everything I'm saying has been said before. Now, the conclusion. Overall, if I had to narrow down my opinion of Iron Lung into 100 words, I would say Iron Lung is an explorative feature that proves what can be created by a small group in a small space. The careful consideration of every detail brings me hope that it could catalyze indie creators to push back against the current, overproduced, under-talented, uninteresting market of film. There are stories people have to tell that will never be heard because they are drowned out by the unfeeling megacorporations. For 2 hours, you can forget that feeling and exist in the Iron Lung in a blood ocean. A strong recommendation doesn't feel like enough, but it is what I have to give. And if I had to reduce that down to one word, I would say yes. Thank you for listening to my humble opinion of Markiplier's new film. I'm sure it was a complete waste of time, and you won't come back for more. But maybe you do. If you want to check out more by me, I have one other video. I might make more, I don't know. And I'm really only making this to have fun with editing, because it's a little silly. But again, thank you for watching, and have a great day.